Hi, everyone, and welcome to this Wealth Management Fast Chat. I'm Shannon Rossick, Director of Content Solutions, and I'm so excited to be joined today by Chief Product Officer of Conquest, Ken Lotocki, because we are coming hot off the heels of our CTO think tank that we just had at Wealth Management Edge. And I think one thing was very clear is that wealth management firms are no longer just experimenting with AI and digital transformation. They are truly trying to operationalize it in a way that's responsible and scalable and actually useful for advisors. And Ken brings a front row perspective on where planning tech is heading, how Conquest is thinking about integration in AI, and what it will take to make innovation practical inside of advisory firms. So, Ken, super excited to talk to you. I want to dive right in.
Let's go.
Well, one of the biggest themes that came out of the CTO think tank was that firms are really wanting to operationalize AI responsibly. So, from your perspective, what does responsible AI implementation actually look like inside of a firm?
Sure. So I'm going to start with a quick imaginary story that shows irresponsible AI use. So I see your New York Rangers jersey behind you. So let's say the Rangers announce a new team GM, a new direction they're going to build using cutting edge AI. So fans get their hope up. ESPN actually starts caring about hockey. Then they finish on the bottom of the division. So when people start asking questions, they start looking at it. Turns out that the AI was a public LLM pointed at a third party analytics platform, the same thing I use for my fantasy hockey pool. Um, so what's the issue there? There's no model, there's no algorithm, there's no calc engine, just clever prompts pointing at a very basic model, a dashboard with some filters. Fell into the AI powered trap. Irresponsible AI usage, but everyone jumped on the bandwagon, think that that's correct and the right thing to do. So responsible AI implementation, cutting to the meat of it, is really comes down to three things: is the result that's generated from the LLM or from the agent verifiable, explainable, and accountable. If you can't produce a clear account of how it reached the conclusion, then you shouldn't be using it to make consequential decisions or providing guidance to your clients. And so, pare it down to kind of like a statement in an industry where trust is the product. The standard for AI has to be the same standard that you hold everything else to.
Well, I certainly wish that the Rangers could use AI to fix their season in their current rebuild, but that is a whole other conversation. And I do want to talk a little bit about the fact that firms are moving from experimentation to execution, which is obviously very exciting. People have moved beyond the curious phase. There's plenty of testing happening, but the harder part is turning AI into something repeatable, governed, and actually useful across the firm. Where do you think firms get stuck in that transition?
Yeah, no, great question. So, I mean, they sometimes get stuck in the transition, in kind of understanding first of all how people want to use AI and what they're doing with it. Now, the real thing is about according to Microsoft, 75% of people are already using AI for the firms they work for. 78% of those 75 are bringing their own tools, and 52% are reluctant to admit it. So there's a very good chance, regardless of having governance or regardless of having process, that people are doing and adopting it, and they're doing it because it not because it's malicious, and they're not trying to do anything maliciously, just because they found something that makes their lives easier. And it's, the same reason we all fell in love with Excel, well, not all of us, but fell in love with Excel when it first came out. It just made a lot of repeatable things that we were, before using calculators and abacuses and things to do that much easier. And so where firms get stuck and things like that, when they don't have the governance in place and things like that with appropriate guardrails put in place, is that it's essentially creating creating this world of shadow AI, as a phrase coined by our friend John O'Connell. And so people are competing for, here's my AI assisted analysis and here's my manual work, and it's hard to understand the difference if you don't know where that information came from. The manual work, you know what they did. The AI piece, if it's not governed properly, for all you know, they're plugging those questions into the LLM like the Rangers GM did. And that's a problem. So it essentially allows, or is giving people the ability to go forward. And so without those appropriate guardrails, unsanctioned tools will thrive, and without governance, unsanctioned tools will be used.
bit of a scary thought, and I'm pretty sure I just heard an abacus reference. So
Yeah.
great segue to talk about pain points, because another one that actually came up during the conversation, which no surprise here, is tech stack fragmentation, because CTOs are trying to reduce that dreaded swivel chair effect, create a more connected advisor experience, and they have to deal with the shiny new object syndrome and bolting on pieces just for execution purposes. But you've actually taken a different position with MCP, making Conquest calculation engine available to agents built by other firms. So what's the bet you're making there, and what does it say about the future of the advisor workflow?
So the future advisor workflow is going to be one of hopeful automation through, properly connected, verifiable, accountable, deterministic data sources. And so that's really where our MCP comes in. So if we believe in a future where there's going to be a single pane of glass, the LLM is acting as the communication layer, but the engine is acting as the source of truth, so to speak, then we can then allow LLMs to be good at what, or be used for what they're good at, providing context, interpreting intent, structuring a response. LLMs on their own are not a financial planning engine, and anyone who tries to LinkedIn sell you a prompt has no idea what they're talking about. So you need something that when you ask a question for which you are on the hook for be whether it's regulatory compliance, the guardrails within your firm, you need to make sure that if you ask that same question the next day, the result you're getting back is correct. Models change daily, almost nowadays. Information comes in, and so if you can't provide, show your work, show your math, but all you're doing is providing a plausible sounding answer, then you're not using it correctly. So the Conquest MCP is there to provide that auditable, verifiable result. And the analogy I use when I think about it is, you wouldn't ask your English teacher to do your taxes, but you'd absolutely want them to explain your tax refund, but only after a trusted accountant and professional using a verifiable calculation engine has provided and done the math to figure out, do you get a refund or do you owe more taxes?
Well, you are on an absolute roll with analogies, so I'm impressed thus far. But another theme that did surface was around advisor adoption. And again, you can have the best tech in the world, but advisors don't trust it. They haven't been trained on it, or it adds any type of friction. It just doesn't matter. What have you learned about designing planning tech that advisors will actually use?
Great question. So there's a fear that comes with advisor adoption in general, and that's when the tool or the program or the thing they're using encroaches on what they consider a differentiator. So when it starts getting into taking over the relationship, providing, it goes into their judgment, the trust that they build with the clients and things like that. So when it encroaches on what they need to do, that creates a bit of an issue, and that creates technology resistance and all of those things. So again, the word or phrase I use is when it commoditizes the differentiator that the advisor is trying to bring. So the biggest thing is that what you need to do, and this is where it helps again to make sure that the math is correct and all those things, is to think about the mundane tasks that someone is having to do, the things that no one likes to do. Understand where the differentiators are. We built Conquest initially to not be a waterfall, throw the seat license over the fence, give them a little bit of training and go to town. We built it to be adaptable and agile in the ecosystem of the firm, of the advisor. They can brand, they can hyper personalize, they can do all those things. And these large language models and everything, so just bringing it all together. And so, what we are offering from a technology perspective, governance, or apply or combine with proper governance and not just bolted on afterwards, making sure that everything's transparent, explainable, verifiable, and you can show the advisor that this is going to make you look more competent, build more trust, build more ability to foster and have strong relationships with the client. Adoption will follow.
And based on everything we heard in the room, the firms that seem best positioned are the ones treating tech as infrastructure for growth, not just a collection of random tools. So as you look at Conquest's roadmap, what are you building toward to support that next phase of digital transformation?
A great question as well. So we haven't deviated from our initial mission of trying to build headless, but headless has evolved from quick and easy integrations and connections to CRMs and all those to essentially now with large language model agents and in the nature of change of the way APIs are changing and all those things. So the MCP was a natural extension in our new agentic world that we're in, where you can take that verifiable deterministic calculation engine, have it do the math and sit behind these tools and all these things to make it that run that much more effectively. So what that really means is that in this new world is SaaS is evolving. That the tech decision is not just based on the coolest user UX that you have, but actually on the data layer and the information behind it. And so our headless MCP, I guess MCP and headless, bit of a, anyways, it is headless. That's what we're building towards. So we're building the functionality, the features, the calculation results. We're building different ways to engage it. You don't need a fulsome 300-page plan to help and work with your clients. It allows you to maintain that value prop and go through, and then again have that deterministic, verifiable calculation source behind all these tools that are hopefully making people's lives easier.
Well, Conquest always has a very clear vision on where the puck is moving. So Ken, as always, it's a pleasure talking tech with you. I appreciate your time and your insights.
Thanks as always, Shannon.